Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video, we're going to be talking about an auction game by Reiner Knizia. We're going to be talking about Ra. And in this game, you will be drawing tiles from a bag and conducting auctions that will allow you to take control of the tiles, that will allow you to win the game. So in this video, we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We're telling you what we do like. We don't like. We'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Ra is still worth playing 23 years after it was first released in 1999. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. Hit the like button, all that bullshit. See ya after this. Bollocks. So, Ra, how'd you play this game? So you're going to take the sun tiles and you're going to divide them into different sets of 3, as the rulebook tells you to do so, and then you're going to randomly assign one of those sets of 3 sun tiles to each player. You'll place the board out onto the centre of the table and you'll place the remaining number 1 sun tile in the centre of the board. Right, on your turn, you're going to have 3 options. You're either going to take a tile from the bag and place it on the board. You're going to be able to play a god tile if you got one, or you can invoke Ra. If you take a tile from the bag, what you'll do, you'll have a little bit of a rummage. You'll pull a tile out and then you'll place it either on the auction track if it's one of the standard tiles. But if it's a Ra tile, you'll place it on the Ra track and this will start an auction. You can also invoke Ra. You'll shout out Ra really, really loud to make your neighbours think you're having a sex game. This will also start an auction. If you're the one that starts an auction, then you will go last, but the player to your left will choose one of their face-up sun tiles and they will say they're going to bid that amount. The next player will have to bid higher. If they don't, they pass, they're out of the auction, but you'll keep going around and the player who bid the highest sun tile will take all of the tiles on the auction track. They'll also take the sun tile that they bid and they'll swap it with the tile that's in the centre of the board. All the tiles that you took off the auction track you'll put in front of you and these will score you points at the end of the game. There's also disaster tiles which will hinder your chances of scoring loads of points. Most of the disasters will see you discard certain tiles that you've collected from the auctions, like the Pharaoh's Death one will tell you to discard 2 Pharaoh tiles. You might have to discard 2 monuments or 2 civilization tiles, right? So once all players have used up all of their sun tiles in the auctions, or you have placed enough Ra tiles to get to the end of the Ra track, then the epoch will end, the round will end, and you'll do a bit of scoring. Player who collected the most Pharaoh tiles will get 5 points. A player who collected the least Pharaoh tiles will lose 2 points. You will get 1 point for every Nile and flood tiles that you've collected, but you have to have at least 1 flood tile in order to score these tiles, right? You get 3 points for every gold tile you got, and you count up the number of civilization tiles that you got. If you got 3 different civilization tiles, you'll get 5 fame points. If you've got 4, you get 10. And if you got all 5, like the stars you got when you worked at McDonald's, then you'll get a whopping 15 points. There's also monument tiles, but these are only going to be scored at the end of the 3rd epoch at the end of the game. You'll get 1 fame point for the first 6 different tiles that you got. You get 10 points for having 7, and then you get 15 points for having all 8. And also, if you can collect 3 or more of the same tile, you'll get a bonus of 5 points for each group of 3 that you got, right? So at the end of 3rd epoch, the final thing you're going to do, you'll add up the value of all of the sun tiles you have got at the end of the game. You add up all your points and the player with the most victory points will be the winner of Ra. So what do we like about Ra? So the first thing that we really like about this game is that it's a piece of piss to play in it. You've only got 3 options. Most of the time you're just going to be drawing a tile out of a bag and sticking it on a board, right? And even if you play a god tile, you're just going to be tossing that away and taking a tile off of the auction track on the sly, right? So it's a real easy game to get into. The complexity is all in your mind when you're trying to figure out which tiles are going to be most beneficial to you, right? So there's not going to be any problem teaching this game. So the second thing that we like about this one is the fact that in contrast to a lot of other auction games, you're only going to ever get 1 bid. So you've got to think carefully about which of the sun tiles you're going to put forward to enhance your chances of winning the auction. If you think about a lot of other auction games, you're just going to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to go on and on and on forever, right? But this one condenses the auction down into a very tight format. You've got to think about what tiles have actually come out the bag, whether or not the tiles that you actually do want are still in the bleeding bag, right? So it's a very simple mechanism. It really does anchor this game down and add to the simplicity of the game. Next thing that we like about this game is that the sun tile exchange dramatically alters when you're going to pull the trigger on the auction. You've got to look at the centre of the board. If you're thinking about the first round, you're always going to have a 1 in there. So it's not really in your interest to bid high on the first round because you're going to be getting that number 1 tile for the second round. That's going to be a real pain in the ass. But on the flip side of that, it might be the case that you could hold back, wait to see how all the other auctions go, and then you might be able to mop up as long as there's not that many rare tiles being removed from the bag. So you're constantly weighing up in your brain, do I waste a high value tile on not a lot of shit, or do I wait and see how things go and then try and get as much as I possibly can for the least amount of bids? So the final thing that we like about Ra is that the Ra tiles not only add a really decent push your luck element to the game, because when you're getting to the end of that track and you've still got sun tiles in front of you, they might get wasted. And this adds a really nice element of tension to the game. If there wasn't that added method of ending a round, you just have to be reliant on bidding with your sun tiles. The designer has added that extra timer in there just to ramp up the tension and make you shit yourself a little bit quicker. So what don't we like about Ra? So the first thing that we don't like about Ra is that some of the turns can feel a little bit empty. This is usually the case when Ra tiles are drawn out before many auction tiles have been drawn. So there's quite a few occasions where you're just going to be bidding on the sun tile that's in the centre of the table. And if that is a load of shit, everyone's just going to pass and that round doesn't bear any fruit whatsoever, right? So it's a little bit frustrating and it sort of punches a hole in the otherwise slick flow of the game. So the second thing we don't like about this game, and I don't know about your version, but the art on my version is complete shit. The board's alright, but the tiles suck. We were taking the piss out of the artwork on this, especially the monument tiles. I mean, to me, they look like different varieties of wedding cake, yeah? I don't know what it is about these sort of Euro games, why they have to employ 4-year-old artists to do all the work, but I'm pretty sure that later iterations of Ra, especially the Fantasy Flight version, and there is a new version that's on GameFound at the moment, I think they've upped the quality of the visual presentation of this one. So the final thing that we don't like about Ra is that keeping track of not only your own score but the score of others is really, really difficult. The game doesn't come with any kind of player mat. You have to go out onto the internet and search for your own player mats to print out. This makes the scoring and also just seeing how you can keep your house in order a lot easier. It's very difficult to see how many pharaoh tiles people have got and to see how many different types of monuments they got, and that makes it difficult to judge what's left in the bag. I don't know if this was a conscious decision by Reiner Knizia, but where the end of epoch of final scoring is such an integral part of the game, it's very difficult to make a judgment in your head as to how far you got to go with certain options. So to summarise, is Ra still worth your time and bother 23 years after it was first released? So we're going to say absolutely yes. This is a classic auction gun that simply will not go away, and that's with good reason. It's seeing its like 100th reprint. It's currently in the middle of a GameFound campaign, so that means it's going to have been reprinted more times than the Bleeding Rosetta Stone. There's not really anything that Reiner Knizia could have added to improve this slick and ultimately exciting beast. Some turns do feel a little bit wasted, and also there's this lingering feeling of randomness that haunts a lot of the turns, but there's just enough decision making to make this a seminal game that every self-respecting board gamer should have in their collection, right? So there you go, that's Ra. Remember, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, hit the like button, subscribe and all that bullshit. See you next Tuesday.